What is up, everyone? JD here. I hope you're all doing well today. Today I'm going to be doing a review of the Kansept Gobling XL. The Gobling has a 3.5-inch S35 VN blade steel. That thing is enormous. It has 5.32-inch titanium handles, an overall length of 8.67 inches, and weighing in at a claimed 6 ounces. We're going to check that right here and now. They weren't lying. It is definitely, you're definitely going to feel this big boy in pocket. All right, before we get into the review, let's go ahead and do our comparison knives, and then we'll go ahead and jump into comparables. I don't have that many, so this should be a shorter video for you out there that are watching this one today. First up, the Spyderco Yojimbo 2. The Yojimbo 2 has a 3.125-inch 20 CV blade, has 4.5-inch G10 handles, and comes in at an overall length of 7.5 inches, so you can see the Gobling XL is much larger. The Civivi is 4 ounces, but anything that I throw out on this table is going to be lighter, so I'm just going to go over the length specs to help you all with understanding just how mammoth the Gobling XL is. Next up is going to be my Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Paramilitary 2 has a 3.44-inch S45 VN blade, 4.81-inch titanium G10 handles, overall length 8.25 inches. So you can see that the Gobling is just bigger than both of these knives. Let's go ahead and bring out the button locks. The button locks are going to kick it off with the Benchmade bug out. The bug out has a 3.25-inch S30V blade, 4.22-inch titanium handles from Flytanium, overall length 7.46 inches. The other crossbar lock is going to be the SIG K320 by Hogue. This one here has a 3.5-inch S30V blade, 4.5-inch polymer handles, coming in at an overall length of 8 inches. Again, just bigger than anything in the comparison knives that I like to throw out for the consistency so you all can understand the size of this thing. Next up is going to be my budget knives. That's going to be the Kubi Royal, aka the KU321. 2.99-inch D2 steel blade with 4.29-inch G10 handles, coming in at 7.28 inches. So this one just looks like a 5th pocket carry next to this Gobling XL. And then the last one that I bring out for the budget comparisons is going to be the Cogent. The Cogent has a 3.47-inch 14C28N blade steel, 4.41-inch G10 handles, and an overall length of 7.88 inches. So I think you guys have a pretty good sense of just how big this knife is. I do have a couple of comparable knives that I'm going to bring out here. You already saw the SIG K320, so what I'm going to do is bring out my Shaman. The Shaman has, my gosh, the Shaman does have the skinny handles on there, and I'm laughing because lengthwise, when you look at these two in length, they're really, oh my gosh, I can't zoom out anymore. I'm already zoomed all the way out. Let's do this. You can see lengthwise they're really close in length, but it's just so massive. It's just so much bigger than the Shaman. It's kind of crazy. The other knife that I thought about when I wanted to do these comparisons is going to be my ZT0562 Hinderer designed. This one here is a pretty big knife, and I still feel like when you compare it against the Gobling, you can just tell that the Gobling is just massively bigger as far as the bulkiness. Now, here's something that is pretty impressive about the Gobling. The Gobling is actually just as thin in profile as the Yojimbo 2 or the Para 3 with the G10 scales. That's pretty impressive. And just to show you a little bit more so, let's flip it over. Check it out against the bug out. That's pretty impressive. It's pretty close to how thin this knife is. Let me get these out the way because the last thing I want to do is knock knives. So as far as this knife is concerned, those are the only ones that I have that are comparable. I'm going to talk about some of the good and some of the bad. So a lot of the good things are going to be definitely the build quality. The titanium with the orange peel on here is really quite grippy. I do like the fact that it is thin, because with such a big knife, you're able to get really good grip on it, because it's not like, if you recall, I did the Beluga review that had contoured handles on it. It was really kind of like thick in hand, but because this one's so tall but so thin, it actually is really quite comfortable in the choke up position. Now, when you back up and you take this finger and put it into that finger guard, well, I don't know that it's necessarily a guard, but it's that finger cutout, it does feel like you're a little bit too far back on the blade. So I feel like the only natural position is actually to have your finger in this little tiny spot here with the middle finger here. I feel like this is a much more comfortable grip. The access to the lock bar is really good, but the lock bar itself, the cutout, is a little bit sharp. You see how thin that is? So you do feel a little discomfort when you disengage that lock bar, and that's also because the lock bar has to be kind of strong to hold this much blade weight in place without it being able to kind of just kick out. And I actually might have been pressing. Yeah, I was pressing on the lock bar. I just wanted to kind of make sure I made my point. So you do have to have that heavier detent for that. And it's just a little bit uncomfortable. It's not awful. I just want to talk about it. It is a little bit nitpicky, but again, just a tiny bit uncomfortable. Now, lockup is really, really good. It does have a lock bar insert. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Let me see. Maybe not. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to get at an angle to where you can see it. You might be able to see it's a little shiny compared to the titanium. You might be able to see that. It is milled out on the inside, which is a good thing, because at 6 ounces, this thing is definitely a heavier pocket knife. Again, the bearing access, the bearing action is really good. The reverse flick works well. My finger was on the lock bar, but you do have to remember to bring your fingers into the appropriate positions to do it. So as you can see there, if you just remember to keep your finger off the lock bar for the righty reverse flick, it's just fine. Now for the lefty, and I'm not left-handed, but for the lefty, in theory, it should be better. Yeah. So I have to be very careful. I don't want to fling the knife anywhere because it is heavy and I don't want to lose my grip. And again, the orange peel really helps with that. Now the coating on the hardware and the coating on the blade seem to be really, really nicely done. I have not had a coated blade from Kansept before, and it does look like it's really well done. And the pocket clip lays on the handles, not on the lock bar. It goes in and out of the pocket quite smoothly. I wasn't sure because it looks like it's really thin profile, but I think that's because the knife's so big that it probably looks like that. But it goes in and out of the pocket really well. It's not offensive. The aesthetics are just fine. The jimping on the back here is really good, especially when you go to use that front flipper, which is a good thing because it being so tall, you tend to want to put your fingers on the lock bar, and you got to kind of just make sure you just touch the pocket clip to get that to work. It is a little unsettling to use the front flipper with the lock bar. I kind of wish they would have went with a lock bar insert on this, but I don't know if that was feasible because this is such a thin profile for such a large knife. I would have preferred that. I also would have preferred if they would have gone with slightly smaller and tighter jimping and wrapped it around, something similar to this, but I think this might be too small and too tight for such a large blade. So just a little bit tighter and a little bit deeper and wrapping around ever so slightly because it doesn't lock up. It doesn't have a stop pin at the top. The stop pin, I'm trying to get to where you might be able to see it, but there it is right there. You see it right here? The stop pin is actually floating on the knife itself. So you could have gone a little bit farther. So, you know, when I was thinking of what this knife might be like when I actually picked it up, I was actually kind of thinking that it was going to be something like the Kaiser Sheepdog. The XL is a little bit bigger than this, so this is not quite as large as the Sheepdog XL, but I was thinking it was going to be more in this area. I was really hoping it was going to be a premium, regular sized Sheepdog type competition with S35VN, titanium, and again, I wish it would have been an inset liner lock as opposed to the lock bar, because it does make it a little hard to actuate. So if you can rest your fingers over top of the pocket clip, and you can just you can grip it but not tightly, you can still really well actuate that. I still am not comfortable doing the finger roll. I will do it here over the table because it's not going to fall on anything, but it is slightly, again, unsettling. So really good build, really good materials. I love the thumb hole, finger hole. That is really nice. It's a really good size. It's almost too big. I can't imagine smaller hands, but you can really get in here nicely and really kick it out really good, and you don't have to I don't feel like compromise a natural hand position to get that thumb flick going. I like the fact that they put the S35VN on here. I really do like S35VN. I know some knives are starting to use S45VN, but I still think S35 is a really good steel. I say the same thing about S30V as well. I know it's been around a while, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad steel just because there's new stuff coming out and they're always trying to find things that take us even further into the performance categories that we love so much. But these are really good performing steels and they shouldn't be overlooked. Overall, I think this is a great knife. If you love big knives, this is really one you should probably look into. This is really comfortable, really well built. Outside of the inset liner lock that I wish it had, and it being a little hot, little bit of pressure when you go to release that, and that you have to kind of be cognizant of the lock bar, which is the same with any titanium frame lock. But again, I wish manufacturers would just go to the inset liner lock, because you don't have to worry about where your fingers are when you use the knife, and you know that it's going to deploy. That's just minor stuff. Overall, I think this is a very recommendable knife, especially if you like large knives, especially if you like statement knives. This is definitely one of those. The only thing I'll say is I kind of wish that they had a Kansept Gobling large. So the Kansept Gobling is actually smaller than this, and then you have the XL, but you don't really have like what Kaiser has done with the Sheepdog. You don't really have something that's kind of in between the two. I would 100% buy a liner lock version of the Gobling in a large size with titanium and S35VN. I would snap that up in a heartbeat, and it would probably make muscle its way because it's a hard use knife. Dad jokes for days, guys. Muscle its way into my rotation, because I really like the Sheepdog, and if you watch my carries of the week, you probably see that it makes it in a couple times a month into that Mike Carter Monday carry, because I do like it, and I do like this knife, but I think it's just going to be a little bit large for my needs. But that's not to say that if you like the Shaman, if you like Hinderer, if you like knives of that size, this is or the Beluga, this is definitely one to check out. I think it is definitely 100% an awesome build and has good quality, and I have no doubt that it's going to perform. I'm almost at 15 minutes. Hopefully I shorten this down with some edits. I appreciate you tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, as always, please leave me a like. It helps me out so much. If you enjoy the content, think about subscribing. I'd love to have you follow. Totally up to you if you want to do that. I appreciate all the support from you that have subscribed. I will be doing a giveaway here. I'm going to do a small one at 800 subscribers, and then I'm going to do a big one at 1,000 to celebrate and say thank you to you who support me with this channel. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this, which I enjoy very much. Have a fantastic week. Until next time, peace.